Back in '85 when I was a college student and I was serving, actually I joined ROTC so that I can serve my nation. Back then I remember that President Reagan was the President of the United States. No, I was actually the first one. Now I'm an immigrant from Ecuador, so and my father came to this country back in 1968. So when I joined, I was actually the first to go to college and the first to join the military. And to do so as an officer was even a greater accomplishment. It was when I was in college. I saw some of my fellow college mates who were cadets, and got to wear the uniform. It was just the first impression with the uniform. It was just a nice thing to see how they wore the uniform and how they had that regimental lifestyle, even though they were college students. So that was the first impression that I received, and I liked that. I wanted to be part of that. And that's when I quickly took ROTC and realized that I could actually serve my country by taking on the program and eventually getting commissioned as a lieutenant. There is no greater thrill than leading American men and women in the combat zone. So my favorite job was battalion commander in Afghanistan. It is the most demanding job, but at the same time the most rewarding job, in that what you're doing out there is the real thing. You are supporting soldiers that are actually fighting the enemy, fighting the bad guys. And the bad guys, obviously, in Afghanistan were the Al-Qaeda network and also the Taliban. And the people that you supported were those folks that were actually giving their lives, putting their lives at risk every single day to, again, fight that war. So when we did the job, we did it obviously knowing that we had soldiers to support, and we had a real easy philosophy that we live by every single day, which is what we're prepared to give the shirts off our backs and the boots off our feet to our fellow soldiers to make sure. So I think that finally, I think America itself embraced the military because they knew now that they needed the military more than ever before to bring that security back home. Back then, after 9/11, I think most of America lived in fear. We did not know when the next attack would be. As long as the fight was overseas in the fields of Afghanistan, it was not going to take place here in the fields of America. So it was just restoring that confidence back in America. The fighting force did not change immediately, but it changed gradually. What we saw, as soon as 9/11 hit, again, I was in recruiting retention, is that we started getting a lot of calls. But it was surprisingly wasn't the young folks, the 18, 19, 20-year-olds that we wanted to bring in. It was the older folks who had served in Vietnam, who were 65, 70 years old, wanting to join. Now, I appreciate what they wanted to do, but it wasn't what we were looking for. But nonetheless, though, the fact is that they had called, but they were also, it was an automatic, almost instant, we had a lot of advertising, free advertising, and that's what the military is about. We advertise our services. And having 9/11 happen and having to see the soldiers deploying, soldiers at the airport, soldiers suffering in Afghanistan, it was that patriotism and willingness from the American people to support and serve America that we're able to eventually get into those 18, 19-year-old kids so they can make a difference in our armed forces. So over the last several years, you have seen since 9/11 that our forces got a little bit younger. And those same soldiers that we got 5, 6 years ago are the same ones that eventually did deploy into Iraq, into Afghanistan, and who are now the backbones of our organization, who are now the young leaders, and those who will make a difference in the future. As a leader, one that was going to take a battalion overseas, it was one that I accepted it with great pride in knowing that I was going to be able to make a difference. One thing you want to do as a leader and as a battalion commander is that you want to take your organization into a combat zone and make an impact, make a difference in the way you provide those services that we provide. And at the same time, take these young soldiers that we had that I mentioned before and be able to make an impact immediately and to be able to bring that element to the combat zone, which was necessary, which is that positive attitude and that willingness to serve, and we did that as an organization. The bigger picture is that these guys gave their lives for a bigger cause, which is democracy, and realize that we're bringing something new to the people of Afghanistan, bringing to them democracy and the rule of the people so that they can choose for themselves their system of government. And we hope that that eventually is going to be able to basically sprout throughout that region so that other people of the world can also see and benefit from democracy. So it has a direct impact on how we live our lives here, and that we know about democracy. We, the people of America, we take it for granted in that we think everybody in the world has what we have, which is freedom. And we also have the economic luxury to go buy whatever we want. But when you go overseas, you see that's not the case with the rest of the world. And it's by ensure that my life is going to be one that's going to continue to do what's best for this nation so that we can bring our cause overseas. And I have to serve again, I'll do it again. So that we can make sure that the people of all the worlds, they can benefit from what we benefit from, and that's the freedoms that we have in this country. The Afghan people have seen and been in a war status for 2,000 years. They do not know what it is to live in peace. They do not know what it is to not live with an occupation force, whether it be the Americans or the Russians or Genghis Khan, okay, being in their country. They don't know what it is to have a country that's ruled by them, a country that is policed by them. They don't know what it is. They've always seen a foreign occupation force on their soil for 2,000 years. So what is their attitude? An attitude is this is business as usual. If it's not the Americans, it'll be somebody else. So that's what we try to convince them that no, we're the real thing. We're going to make a difference for you. And eventually, it's not going to be the Americans. It's going to be the Afghans taking care of yourselves. So what's the attitude? It's a wait-and-see attitude. It's nothing new for them to see a foreign occupation force. When I was there, they looked at me as a foreign occupier. Sitting with the soldiers, we said a little prayer, then I thanked them for their service, thanked them for the sacrifice, and let them know that they were making history. They were making part of American history. That someday, 20, 30 years from now, their sacrifice will actually be fruitful in that we're going to see a better world. And I tell them that please do not forget that what they're doing was something good for our nation, doing something good for the world. In my heart, I said I could be with my family or I could be with my soldiers, and I realized that then the soldiers there were my family. Right. And we were all family, a big family together. So it just realizes that some sacrifices are worth it, and that's when we realized that our sacrifice was absolutely worth it. Like I told them for the whole 12 months, your legacy is what you got to work on your legacy. And they know that the legacy now is one that was a good legacy, one that's built on the principles of sound military principles such as, serve with pride, serve with dignity, and then come back to your loved ones as heroes. And I think that they appreciate that.